What the f have I gotten myself into? Hello? Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Ooh. That was crazy timing. Hi. Hi. I'm Mary Grace, or MG as everybody calls me. I live in New York City and I work in fashion.
Glamour. Glamorous.
And I'm gonna be answering your questions from TikTok.
Stop touching your hair.
I recorded this 3 different times. Aww. 3 different times. And the second time people were moving in the hallway. I feel like I don't even need to look at the questions because the biggest question that I got was, are you anorexic? No, I don't have an eating disorder. I'm not trying to promote eating disorders in that specific video. If you haven't checked it out, check it out on TikTok. It's at Hoodie Mars. I'll post a link in the description, but I do not have an eating disorder. So please stop commenting, asking me if I'm okay. I am perfectly fine. I'm just very busy and I didn't post everything I eat throughout the day. I'm gonna do a what I ate in a day just to clear up any preconceived misconceptions.
That's it. That's all bit.
Another question that I got a lot was, how did you get your job? What did you major in college? Where do you work? Things of that nature. So I was really gonna go into a long story about how I got my job, what I majored in college, etc. But I am more than happy to film a different video where I go into specifics. A short answer for that is I got my job through a networking group that I was in from a podcast I listened to called The Morning Toast. And there's a huge group of people who listen to the podcast and are in the group in New York City. It's pretty much how I found my closest group of friends. It's been really great and it provided me with my job that I have now. So I'm really grateful for it. In college, I majored in communications and film studies with a minor in fine arts, and then in the second semester of my junior year, I switched that just to communications and fine arts, and then I graduated. I took a year off where I was coding websites upstate, doing web and app development for non-for-profit lobbying associations. It was honestly the worst year of my life. I was really unhappy. I was sitting in a cubicle for 8 to 10 hours a day, coding and going to meetings, and it's just something that I never really was passionate about, but I'm really grateful for the learning experience because ultimately it provided me with the network that I found my job through, because I would just sit in that cubicle and listen to podcasts all day, every day. And then I started reading more and I started kind of doing a lot of self-reflection and figuring out what made me really happy and what I was passionate about and how I wanted to achieve my goals. And ultimately I found that I was passionate about fashion and I wanted to seriously pursue it. I always wanted to move to New York City, I just didn't know how, and my parents aren't the type of parents that are just gonna throw me an apartment in Manhattan and say figure it out, we'll support you financially throughout it. Instead, they are the type of parents who are like, you need to save up money if you want to move to New York City. It's very expensive, we're not helping you out, but if you want to pursue your goals, we'll obviously support you. We're just not going to support you financially. You are 20, I'm 24 right now, but at the time I was 22, 23, and they were like, you can live home, work this job, save your money, and if you want to move to the city, move to the city. After a couple months working at that job where I was upstate working in web development, I decided I was gonna move to New York City, set my mind to it, was in a ton of networking groups, which is super, super important if you wanna get into a niche such as fashion. And I just really built my network. I was cold calling, I was cold emailing, I was talking to everybody and anybody in the industry, trying to make connections. I was researching fashion master's programs that I could potentially apply to, things of that nature.
Hi, hello, it's me.
I'm editing this video right now and I completely forgot to include that I held 2 internships when I was in college, one in PR and one in graphic design, and I had them on my resume when I started to apply to jobs post-grad, but then when I started to shift to a more fashion-oriented application process, like I started applying to more fashion-oriented positions, I decided to include my retail experience. So while I was in high school for 2 years, I worked for American Eagle, and after that, I worked for Abercrombie & Fitch for 4 or 5 years. And then after that, I worked for a boutique for 1 summer in Saratoga, about 45 minutes outside of Albany, where I'm from. I think that's really, really important because I think people maybe undermine working in retail, and when you're applying to these fashion positions, they want to see where you got your start, they want to see you have an interest in fashion and interest in clothing, etc. So I did find a master's in fashion management, which is a master's of professional studies with Parsons School of Design out of the New School, and I inquired about it. I went to an open house, I met the program director, I got his email, ended up setting up coffee, and we went out for coffee. He told me more about the program, and I ultimately applied, and I kept that network, and I was going to panel discussions for the program and things of that nature. So even before I was accepted to the program, I was actively networking through the program director. And I think if I hadn't been so outgoing and hadn't decided to ask the program director the first time I met him for his email and for his business card, I wouldn't have maintained that connection. I don't even know if I would have been accepted to the program, because when my application came through, they would have just saw me as another applicant. It wouldn't have been as personal. So I applied to the program. I ended up getting in, and once I found out I was in, I had a couple months to find a job. So the job came up through my networking group. It was for an executive assistant position to the president of a large luxury retailer, the flagship store in the metropolitan area. And when I showed up for the interview, the position had actually been filled, but they offered me a different position as an executive assistant within beauty. And it was a 3-round interview process. 1 was on the phone and 2 were in person. And then they gave me the offer, but it was a really long, tedious process, maybe 3 or 4 months it went over, and I was getting nervous that I wasn't gonna get an offer, so I ended up applying to a couple of other places, and I was given another offer at Veronica Beard for a styling position in their retail store on Madison Avenue, and I actually had accepted that position before I got my offer for the position that I'm in now. So it is really, really important that you network, reach out, cold call. I got that position at Veronica Beard by cold calling their store and seeing if they were looking for retail associates or any associates overall, if they were hiring at all. And that's how I got that interview at Veronica Beard, and ultimately I could have worked there if I wasn't so passionate about this other executive assistant role. And I think that's pretty much, long story short. Once I was in that executive assistant role, I was there for probably 10 months before I decided I wanted to pursue another role within the same company, and that's how I ended up in studio styling and studio services, assisting a consultant for projects with networks such as Netflix, HBO, CW, Amazon, things of that nature, and also celebrity styling.
Some pretty cool people.
Maybe that's another video though. So that's long story short. I was going to school and getting my master's full-time at Parsons while I was working full-time as well. And when you're in fashion, the hours, especially as an assistant, the hours can be grueling. I was working 40 to 50-hour weeks and going to school full-time. On Friday nights, I'd have class, so I'd be going to work from 9 to 6, and then from school to 6 to 10, and then Saturday, Sunday from 9 to 6, I would have class. So it was a very, very packed schedule for about a year, but after this week, I'm done, and I'm happy to be done because it's been a long process, and I'm excited to just be able to come home and focus on my goals. That was another question that came up. What do you want to do with fashion? I don't think I want to stay in styling forever because, as you can tell, it is very, very stressful. My days are long, my hours are long. It's a lot of busy work, which I love because every day is different, but it does get old after a while, and I think it's very high burnout. What I want to do is get into editorial or creative direction. In reality, the salary that I'm making now is relatively unsustainable, and I would just like to have a little bit more comfort. What are the other questions? Oh, where'd you get your glasses from is something I get a lot. These that I wear all the time. These are from Zenny. They were like $3 and they have my prescription in them, and they also have blue light. Any other glasses that I have are from Warby Parker. The sunglasses I get from an array of places. You can check it out on my Like to Know It. Usually I post links there, but the ones I'm wearing in my videos are the ones I wear to work. Usually they're from either Amazon or Celine or Chanel, or I have a pair from Fendi, I have a pair from Dior. I love sunglasses. I think they make a whole outfit, especially in the summer.
I love them almost as much as I love outerwear. I feel like outerwear makes an entire outfit as well.
People are also asking about an apartment tour. I'm more than happy to do that. I'm just gonna do it in a separate video because it's gonna be way too long and I wanted to make this really short. I hate when there's videos are like 40 minutes. The next question was, where did I get this backpack and
how did I get it monogrammed?
This is the Kaya laptop backpack from Calpac. I monogrammed it myself with leather paint from Blick and a paintbrush. So I'm more than happy to do a tutorial if you would like. What I did is I outlined it in a white colored pencil, and then I just went in and I did the letters and then I did the shadowing. I hope that answered all the questions. I'm not sure. Let me check.
Let me double check.
Oh, people are wondering why I take the wrong train so often. I actually just moved to the Upper East Side a couple months ago, and it's really confusing when you move to a new spot. I was so used to my old commute in Chelsea because before I lived here, I lived in Chelsea. And now I have to transfer trains. After a long day, it's the worst. People are also wondering what book I'm reading right now. I'm reading 2 books actually, and I have one on deck. I'm reading Man Repeller, Seeking Love, Finding Overalls. I love Leandra. And then I'm also reading Such a Fun Age. I just started it. It's for my book club. And then I have The Goldfinch on deck, which is a really long,
thick book.
So I think I'll probably read that one on its own. I won't start another one while I'm reading it. I have a ton of book recommendations if that's something you guys would like to see, especially books about kind of finding your passion, finding your purpose. And I have a ton of podcast recommendations too. I think ultimately reading and podcasts are really what ended up getting me to my goal of where I wanted to be a year ago. So I think that's all the questions that were really big on TikTok throughout the last couple of days. I hope that I answered them well. If you have any other questions, please make sure you comment them below and feel free to subscribe while you're at it. Follow me along on Instagram. My Instagram is just @MaryGraceGraves, or my TikTok is @HoodieMars, HOODIEMARZ.
That was so much better than the one before. Oh my god, I wasn't sweating.
Alright, well, toodaloo. Adios, amigo.
My back hurts so bad.